Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 21 Days of Business. If this is the first time you're catching this video series, welcome. My name is Yasmin Salem Hamden. I'm the founder of coachesandcompany.com. We are your go-to digital destination for all things legal in your entrepreneurial journey. And throughout the month of November, we are going to be sharing interviews with guest experts each day, answering your questions as they relate to your business. And today's topic is a super relevant, juicy, so good. I mean, you name it, all the things. We are talking about course creation with our special guest, Ariel Schiffer of Dream Pro Courses. Hey, Ariel.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. And I'm so excited to have you here. For those that are not familiar with you or with Dream Pro, could you share a little bit with us, please?
Yeah, my name is Ariel Schiffer. So I'm the founder, CEO of Dream Pro, which is a course creation agency for small businesses, entrepreneurs who are looking to develop really, I like to say, high quality programs. So our mission is to improve the quality of learning in the online business industry. So not just focusing on the marketing of your course, but also in addition to that, and what's probably most important is the design behind your course and making sure that your clients really get the transformation. So we provide done for you services with our agency. And then we also have an educational platform too. So that way you can create your own courses as well.
I love it. Yes, so needed because course creation is a hot topic right now, right? And it has been for the past couple of years, but it seems like it's grown exponentially since the you know what began in 2020, right? And everyone went virtual. But I'm really excited for our conversation because while I'm all about monetizing your passions, your expertise, your experience, your knowledge, packaging that in a course or a digital product and selling it, it's super important to make sure that we're maintaining the quality of these products, the quality of the information that we're sharing, making sure that we are acting in integrity, that we're not just like bundling together a bunch of, I think it was a conversation that you and I were having where it's like, people will just string together a bunch of live videos they've done and then call it a course, and it's so much more than that. Developing your curriculum, making sure that you are weaving in different teaching methods and making sure that you're setting your students up to succeed, right? So I'm really excited for our conversation today. And I know that there are three things in particular that you wanted to share with us that we need to be keeping in mind as we are creating our online courses. And so let's kick things off. What do we need to know, Ariel?
Yeah. So when it comes to creating courses, like one of the biggest tips that I give for people is like making sure that it's really catered to the people that you're trying to educate. And so that's a very big blanket statement. So here's what that actually means. And this is something that I really recently actually wrote some stuff on. And I was like, oh, this is so good. I need to share with people. So,
oh my God, tell us all the things.
Yeah. So when it comes to actually like creating an experience that really aligns with the people that you're trying to target. So if that's your current audience, maybe it is approaching somebody new. You want to first start with understanding where they are starting. So what that means is not just, looking at the assumptions of, oh, this person drinks Starbucks coffee and they're 35 and they're married, or none of that stuff. It's really looking at, okay, my ideal learner, if you will, like where are they starting from a competency perspective, right? So how much do they know in this area? Where are they starting from? Like, what do their previous experiences look like? And then also looking at it from a confidence perspective too. So mentally, like, where are they at? Do they feel really confident? Do they feel excited? Do they feel nervous? Like, what are those feelings? So really meshing, the mind and the spirit, if you will, when it comes to like where people are at to begin. And that's really going to help you when it comes to, a lot of people say, how do I make sure my course goes deep enough? Or how am I making sure that I'm like hitting the nail on the head when it comes to what people want to learn? One of the key parts of that is understanding like where they're starting from, right? So that way, you know how deep you need to go or what you need to really explain to really help them through that. The next thing that you want to know is where they want to go and why. So we were just having actually a conversation about recent FTC changes when it comes to things like making income claims and all that stuff. And so, topic for another day. I'm very excited about that.
I think maybe we should do a live chat and discuss and continue our conversation, because definitely a much needed one, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And when it comes to that too, it's like, a lot of people are so used to selling money, like the money promises, and like, especially if you're B2B, right? Like money is definitely a motivator. But what's important is, as a course creator, for you to understand like what your clients and learners actually want and why. Like, what's that deeper thing outside of the money, right? The money is giving them something. They don't just want it to sit in a bank forever and never use it, right? So like, why do they want that money? Or what's that underlying thing that they truly want? And when you're able to identify what they want, it helps you say, okay, this is where they're starting. This is where they want to be. How can I make sure that my program actually connects the dots to them? And it's not just because I think a lot of times too, course creators are like, oh, this will help you. Like, we'll use, basic example. So it'll help you get to 10K months. If you can't draw the line between where your curriculum actually helps them achieve that or how, then they're going to be lost too. It's not going to benefit them either, right? So just making sure too that you understand fully, like intrinsically, extrinsically, what your learners want, and you're able to connect that. I would say with that as well is when you're thinking through that transformation, another tip is for you to really, when you understand your audience, understand too, like, where are they going to get stuck? Where have they previously gotten stuck? What have they tried before, and where have they failed? And how can you make sure that you're doing what you need to make sure that they're not stuck, right? So a lot of people say like, oh, I'm stuck here and there. Well, what have they been trying? What's on them, right? Because you also don't control them. Like this is, you can only do so much. They're the ones that are taking the action, but how can you remove any barriers that maybe they have had before within your control, and do that within the learning experience? And then I'll give you a bonus number 4 tip, which is, especially if your course has a live component where you're doing coaching or teaching outside of what's pre-recorded, is I always like to say, like, be the coach or the teacher that they need you to be, right? And so a good coach, a good teacher is bringing out the potential in the people that they see, and the way that they approach one person might be a little bit different than the way that they approach another. So remember too, when you're working with people individually, get to know them, understand what makes them tick, what helps them reach that potential. And really hone in on your coaching and your teaching skills when it comes to that stuff, because that's really going to help them and aid in the transformation if your course has that component.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's so important to have some level of personalization, right? I know that a lot of people, and I think it's true in most contexts, is that highly personalized touches may not be always quote unquote scalable, right? You can't establish a very deep relationship with each individual person as you increase the volume of your reach and your students or your clients or whatever it is that you're doing. But early on, it's possible, right? And I think you only stand to benefit as you're learning more about your audience, learning more about your community, and you're developing these relationships and hearing from them and providing them with space to share their hangups, their desires, their struggles, their wins, their goals, or whatever it is that they envision for themselves, and ultimately what they envision themselves like on the other side of that transformation, on the other side of that experience, and working with you or learning from you or being supported by you. So I love that. I would love to hear from you on identifying you mentioned like how deep is too deep when it comes to the content of my course. And so what are your recommendations on identifying a course topic and creating a course and then building an audience for it versus creating a course for an audience you already have created?
Ooh. So this is a loaded and very interesting question that I'm very excited about. So something that I usually share with something that I think we need to realize is our current audience might not be our ideal audience, right? So for example, on my platform, on my social media accounts, I have a lot of people that follow me that are business owners. They're either, have bigger businesses, or they might just be starting out. So they can be, ideal clients for a number of different offers that we have. If I go to my personal page, it is literally people from like high school and college, family, etc. So if I sent out a survey for market research on my business page, I would likely get way different answers than I did on my personal page. So you need to really think about too, do you want to speak to your current audience, or do you want to speak to an ideal audience? And are they the same thing, right? They might be, they might not be. So when it comes to developing something, one of the first steps that you need to take is getting some data, right? Is this something that other people want aside from you, right? Because you're not going to buy your own course. But that being said, is making sure when you are putting out things, especially a lot of people use polls and surveys, and all of that is fine. It's a great point of data. It's not the only point of data you should use, but I always like to say too, make sure that the right people are filling that out. Like put a disclaimer, like, please only complete this if X, Y, and Z, right? Because getting data from people that are not ideal is going to skew things so much. I remember recently, I just did a whole new market research thing because we recently redid all of our offers, and I specified these are the things that I'm looking for us to have a conversation. And a ton of people reached out, and then I reiterated, do you meet these requirements? Just because I want to make sure if I'm getting on the phone with somebody that it's worth their time and mine, right? Your time is just as valuable as my time. So I found a lot of people were not qualified. And then some people that when I actually got on the phone, I realized, oh, wait, I should have asked for these things too, because these people still aren't necessarily ideal. But I had great conversations with them, and it actually helped me realized that I had another audience group that I wasn't even thinking of that was kind of in the middle of the two. So it was just, like the people that are not really like, they don't have the time for DIY solutions, but they don't have the capital yet for like our full done for you, right? So there's that like middle section. But I would say, identify like who you actually want to create something for, making sure that you get data and you get feedback from people who are actually aligned with that. And then you can start to really develop and understand them and really connect the dots, because truly when it comes to creating great products, the best products, the ones that go the deepest, the ones that are so relatable and so actionable are the ones that are created by the people that know their audience in and out. Like it's like they're their best friends, right? And so I can tell you all day about the people that work with us in a done for you manner. Like I know exactly what they say, I know what they object to, I know what they value, I know what's going on in this. And I know them because I'm so used to talking to them and working with them. And the same thing has to go with your courses. So like, if you get to know people really well, you're going to be able to make way more specific content to them, point to examples that they can relate to. And a key part of adult learning is really adults, unlike children are like sponges, right? We've heard that, sort of metaphor. Adults, like we come with baggage, right? Like we have trauma, we have experiences, we have all these things that we've gone through in life. And so to create effective learning experiences, we want to use that to our advantage. Actually, we want to relate the baggage to what we want to learn. We want to take all of our bad habits and actually use that to our advantage. And so the more you know people, the more you understand what baggage they're coming from, what experiences they had, the more you're going to be able to create learning and content that actually really connects with them and resonates with them, which helps them obviously implement and really think about how they can actually change their life, because most courses are designed to create behavior change, right? So it also comes with connection. So I know that was very
Ooh, okay. I was gonna say, so there was a lot there. And
I know.
I feel like I want to re-listen to that response because there was so much goodness in that. But in particular, one thing I want to highlight that you mentioned, Ariel, is talk to your people, like get to know those people. Don't make assumptions based off of what it is you think they need or what it is that you think they want, even if you were at one point in their exact place or in their exact position or in experiencing what it is you think they're experiencing. Still having those conversations, and ultimately it's market research, and for sure market research for the win. Like the clarity that comes through when you actually engage with your market and speak with your market. And even if you end up on market research calls with people that are not an exact fit, if anything, that helps even further clarify who is the right fit and who it is really that you're talking to. And you might even, like you mentioned, Ariel, uncover a market or a segment of your market that you had totally overlooked or was just kind of like, hey, help me. And you weren't serving them at all. And maybe be able to create a more specific course or a more narrow course or resource that serves them, or maybe helps them have that like early transformation needed in order to be ready for your ultimate course or ultimate service or whatever it might be. So I love that. Thank you for that. So you run an agency and you support your clients in creating their courses, developing the curriculum. What does that look like? That curriculum development process and refining that?
It is a process. So, just to give you guys, I guess I've actually never really talked about my process for this. So this is I'm glad you asked, because I've never really spoken about this. So
I love it. Do tell.
When it comes to the overall like course design experience, I have a framework that I use that's based on so in the instructional design world, there are a few different methodologies that are tried and true, and they're very useful for large organizations where you're working with multiple groups of SMEs or subject matter experts and all the things. But it's very much so rooted in sometimes like old school mentality, corporate politics, and ways of working. And so I really had to look at what I was doing for large organizations and connect it with the industry that we're in, because it's so unique in a lot of ways. And so I came up with our own process that is kind of like a spin on traditional instructional design, but more practical for like what we do with our clients. And so the overall process is 4 steps, but we always start with the curriculum, right? Like looking at like the blueprint of the program, if you will. So we usually kick off with market research. So for our done for you clients, what we do is we provide you the prompts that you need, the information that you need to relay, so that way you can get some data. And then we do a competitor analysis. So we look at what's currently going on in the industry, and we create this really great like analysis recap for you, which is great for you to give to copywriters, for you to use in your messaging. I mean, you just get a lot of information 100%. And a lot of aha moments. And like you said earlier, and like I said, like you cannot make assumptions when it comes to the people that you're serving, because you will always be surprised. And to your point too, like a lot of times our ICA really is somebody who was us, a few months ago, years ago, whatever it might be. But since then, the world has changed drastically, and the way that people work and live has changed. So there's always going to be some nuances, and also people just aren't you, right? There's always going to be some nuances that you're able to pick up. So we start with market research. We provide recommendations to the business owners outside of that too, because I always tell people like we can do as much as we can, but it always serves you, especially if you have a small business, to like truly like be in the trenches and connect with people. And also too, with that, like it doesn't always necessarily need to be new people that are potential ideal clients. Like talk to your current clients. I talk to them all the time. I'm always like, hey, you want to test something out? Can we try something with you? Can you be our guinea pig? And let me tell you, people love being guinea pigs, because usually they're getting stuff for discounted or free, and they're getting way more attention, and we're just getting some feedback. So I always like to test with my clients. They love it. And it just gives me insight. So we do market research, and then we go into, we have a few questionnaires. I give a few different prompts for really helping people think through, because a lot of people hire us because they're like, I don't know how to articulate the way that I work with people one-on-one, or the services that we provide. Like me doing it myself and me educating other people, 2 different things, right? And it really is. There's a difference between educating and doing. So I give some prompts to really get in their head in terms of like what they typically do, what their thought process is, what's needed, what's a gap, if they have any signature frameworks, or if they have any processes that maybe they haven't articulated in the best way, I try to capture that. I usually tell them, send me everything that you have that's related to this course topic. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, I'm sure. I've literally seen it all.
Everything.
Yeah, I've gotten pictures of people's offices like filled with Post-its, and they're like, it's in no particular order. And I'm like, of course it's not. But you know what? Like, I think we're just good. Instructional instructional designers, we are master organizers. It is very interesting. So I'll take what I can get. Anything is better than nothing. And we have the questionnaire, we have that. And then we usually kick off with a client. I go through their questionnaire, I go through their content, and I usually just ask a bunch of questions. I'm digging into all the little pieces of it, trying to uncover the things that maybe they didn't think about, or the things that maybe they couldn't, think of when they were writing things out, which happens because a lot of people too work with us. It's their first course. They're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just, writing some stuff out. So we ask a bunch of questions, and then basically our kickoff is sort of like a VIP day in a way. So I spend the entire rest of the day like going through their stuff, looking at, if it's a revamp, I look at any client feedback they have. I do my own research. I look at the market research. I look at everything, and then come up with a plan for course objectives. So this is really outlining, okay, what are the goals of the program? What's the program promise? And then based on that, what do people actually need to do, and in what order? So once I have those course objectives, they really become the guiding light of the rest of the program, and I'm able to fit in the pieces, which makes it easier. Course objectives are honestly difficult. They're difficult. It took me years to like really understand how to fully create them, and then how to actually map things to them. But it doesn't have to be that complicated, but it's just what I'm used to. So creating all those objectives. And then from there, I look at, okay, what are the modules? What are the lessons? What are the resources? What are the overall frameworks? What are the sub frameworks? And I like to look at programs holistically. So how do all the pieces work together? How does it accomplish the program promise? How does it relate to maybe the additional program features like coaching or community, right? Like how is each piece actually intentional in creating an overall learning experience? How does the pricing align with, the market research, align with what expectations, align with the person's product suite? So there's so many like individual pieces, and it's almost like a puzzle, putting it all together in a way that makes sense for the business owner, that makes sense for the learner, and just overall creates something that is unique, but also really enhancing in terms of them getting to the outcome. So I don't know if that's the best, easiest way to talk about creating a curriculum, but there are a lot of pieces. It's definitely it's an art and a science in a lot of ways. But it's fun. It's a total creative, like sort of experience for me. And it's one of the most fun things that I do, honestly. And that's actually the core part of what I do in the agency, is just the kickoff, and then the team basically executes from there. So yeah.
I love it. Thank you for that inside look. I actually want to hear you talk more about that outside of this interview, because I think that that's so helpful in providing context and just visualizing and when you said puzzle pieces, that's exactly what I was picturing in my mind, was all of these different pieces coming together and just receiving support in the execution of, okay, I have all of these. I know I have a wealth of information and experience and training and everything to pull from, but how do I bring them together in a way that allows for me to effectively communicate all of those things, that allows for me to package it and sell that as a product. And then of course, and ultimately the most important, allows for my students or for my learners that are coming into that course to effectively learn and process and implement everything that they're learning in the course.
And that's why people, I think, get stuck, is like, they're so used to people telling them, especially people that don't have an instructional design experience. And they're like, just create an outline. Like that is so debilitating. If I just started to try to like bullet point out, the content, it would not come out the way that they do now. Because it's like, it's so much more than an outline. And once you take the time in the upfront to put all these pieces together, the rest of it just flows so much easier and things just make sense. And, I think that's honestly what causes people to go into this spin of like overwhelm and feeling like there's so much and feeling like they have the plan, but the plan's not actually working out the way they intended. It's because you're starting at an outline, which is like step 6. There's like 5 more steps before that.
Yes, absolutely. So good. Thank you for that. So in our last, I feel like we could talk about this for ages. Yes. And this will be the first of many, this is definitely not our first conversation on the topic, but first interview, first aired or shared chat. But to wrap things up, I would love to hear from you as far as what your big message is for our community. So those
Yeah.
that are interested in expanding their product suite or their services into creating a course and sharing their expertise and their knowledge and their experience with their community, what's your big message?
So I would say for people that are just starting out in terms of really creating educational content or, digital products, things like that, is don't rush it. Right. Like I understand people want things yesterday. I do too.
Who
But when it comes
doesn't?
to things, yeah, like courses or digital products, the things that are going to create the most revenue for you, the things that are going to create the best reputation for you, the things that are going to create true client transformation, come from intention and time. You know what I mean? You can't rush good things. And I think there's a difference between testing things out, piloting things, and really putting out a product that you're proud of. And so my biggest advice is, sometimes I think people get a little bit overwhelmed and they hear me talk about our process because I've been in this world for like 10 years and some people are just now starting to, really flex their inner educator. And so I want to say, like, don't get overwhelmed. Like, you're not supposed to know everything that I know. Anybody can be an educator. I think it just takes time and intention, right? And like, do your best. Try to always do better. Try to always update your stuff. Get feedback. Get real data and research. And if you're just creating from your own, like, sort of like laser focused mindset and you're not bringing in, people to look at stuff or give you feedback, it's going to be way harder. Right. So kind of going back to the beginning, like, don't make assumptions, try to like test things along the way and it'll make you feel even more confident. But you need to start, right? So just start, start diving into stuff and take your time and try to enjoy the process too. I think when you approach things with the mindset of, oh, this is going to be a lot of work or it's going to take so long, then of course it will, right? But enjoy the process too and try to have fun with it.
I love it. Do it with joy. Do it
Yeah.
joyfully. I'm here for that. Thank you so much, Ariel, for joining us. And if you are interested in learning more about Ariel's work, about Dream Pro courses, all of those links and all those goodies will be in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this video. So thanks again, Ariel. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.